But I've divested. Like Jared, I receive no salary and I pay all my own expenses.
This has become an issue.
What people call conflicts of interest, Steve and I call experience and trusted relationships that we have throughout the world. If Steve and I didn't have these deep relationships, the deal that we were able to help get done that freed these hostages would not have occurred. We have trusted relationships in the Arab world and even in Israel, where we've both done business in the past, but that means they trust us, we understand their cultures, we understand how they work, and we're able to use those, that knowledge and skill set to try to do things that advance the world.
I would agree exactly with what Jared
Listen to
said.
that. So this was 60 Minutes, and it was an interview with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner about the deal that they helped broker between Israel and Hamas. And it's interesting to me because, you know, you listen to him and the first thing that he said is like, I paid my own expenses. Basically, he's saying that the government didn't pay for anything. And he was talking about the same thing with Jared Kushner. And the thing is like, when you hold a position, you can't then go and utilize government resources for your own private gain. So that's why they emphasized the fact of, oh, I utilize my own money for this. Because if you utilize your own money, then you get to take advantage of all the profits that you have as a result, that are created as a result. And it brought something up to me about how the private relationships, how the Trump administration is utilizing private relationships to achieve public policy goals. And it's no different than any other president. But the thing is that most administrations, what they will do is they will take somebody from private life, put them in government so that they could advance government goals, but not necessarily be able to benefit financially from whatever it is that they do. By not having them in an official government position, or by them going there not in their official capacities, they're able to utilize their private relationships, but also gain the private benefit, the private profit from these public policy goals. If there's a thing like in government contracting that if the government pays you for something, then technically, not even technically, contractually, it is owned by the government. You know, people don't understand, like with the F-22 program, I found this out recently, that the F-22 program was paid for by the United States government, by the United States Air Force. And when the F-22 program was finished, they had to destroy all the tooling. So that's why we can't build another F-22, because once the program was over, Lockheed Martin had to destroy all the tooling because it was owned by the government. Everything that is created, everything that the government pays for is owned by the government. So if the government didn't pay for your travel, if the government didn't pay for your expenses, if the government didn't do any of that, then then the government doesn't have any right to any of the relationships or even the information that you may have used or disclosed during that time. The thing about understanding public policy and being a public figure is understanding the language and the nuances. And if you haven't been in those kinds of environments, you don't really recognize or understand what's going on. And that right there, you're saying like we utilized our private relationships. We built these relationships and we were able to achieve this particular goal, Well, because the government didn't pay for it, even though they were protected by the government, they were there under the auspices of the government, is that they are able to take full advantage of whatever business deals that come as a result with what's going on in Gaza and how they're going to handle this Gaza conflict, and getting these people repatriated back into their homes and back into their land is yet to be seen. And this has been a very, very sticky, very difficult peace deal to negotiate because of all the missing pieces. But we're going to get more into that.
Duke's up.
There were a couple intense moments that we had, but what led to this was really the trust that we were able to build. And I was trained in foreign policy really in President Trump's first term by seeing an outsider president come into Washington with a different school of foreign policy than had been brought in place for the 20 or 30 years prior. And his foreign policy was really about pragmatic realism, right? Taking pragmatic stances, trying to use strength to avoid wars, and figuring out how to make deals, not lecture the world. And so the way that
Wait, what does that mean? Make deals and not lecture the world.
focus on interests over values sometimes, and figure out where do we have
Interests.
joint interests with other
Interests.
countries, and pursue those joint interests. And then where you have differences on interests or values, discuss those privately and try to find ways to get it to the best
Hear
place
that?
possible. But the way that we were successful in the first term with a lot of the different trade deals and peace negotiations like Abraham Accords and the ending the GCC dispute was that we never approached it with people like we were across the table from you. We sat with the people from other countries and we said, let's agree on the same objective. And then once we agreed on the objective, we kind of locked arms and said, let's figure out ways that we can work together to try and get there. We joke with the Abraham Accords that we succeeded at Plan C, but only because we went through the alphabet 3 times and failed at every letter and kept going, and we never quit.
You hear that? You hear that? They negotiated based upon interests, not value. They identified what is a common objective that we all can share, and then how do we get there? You know, when you're talking about negotiation, you literally have to find out what is important to the other side. What are the things that we both want? What do we have an interest in? And looking at, do we have an interest in having the Palestinian people come to our countries? No, we don't. Do we have an interest in figuring out a way of doing business with each other? Yes, we do. So since we have a shared interest in not wanting the Palestinian people to come to our countries, and we also have a shared interest in doing business with one another, and we also have a shared interest in making sure that Hamas is no longer in power, how do we come together on making that happen? And yes, there might be some differences that we have in values, but we can discuss that privately. But understanding what our interests are and what we're actually trying to accomplish. And, you know, that's the thing. Interest is everything. What are you willing to show up at somebody's front door about, not hearing any explanation, not hearing nothing that they got to say, willing to risk your life, liberty, and freedom as a result of it? Think about that. That's what your interests are. And when we start talking about interests as it comes to politics, as it comes to everyday people, we focus on values. We're having these values conversations in public instead of discussing them privately. And what do I mean by that? We all have an interest in making sure that we have a roof over our head, that we have gas, we have cars and gas in our cars. We have an interest in making sure that our children are well educated. We have interest in that. We have interest in making sure that we have a livable wage. Majority of Americans have an interest in that, at least those that are part of the working class, the working class. And I wouldn't say working poor or even middle class, because you're middle class, you're still working. You're not a true capitalist if you're working, but that's a whole nother discussion. But we all have an interest in that. Where we differ is in our values on whether we believe that trans women are women, whether or not we believe that abortion is murder, whether we believe that this is a country of immigrants. Like, those are values. Those aren't necessarily interests. So if we identify what our interests are, and this is something that I've been teaching my students, pick 3 things. 3 things that make sure that you're fed, what keeps you fed, what keeps a roof over your head, what keeps you healthy, those things. Focus on those 3 things, because there's 1,000 other hills that you can die on. Pick the 3 that you can live and thrive on, and those are your interests. And then start aligning all of your decisions around that. But if you start making values decisions instead and neglect your interests, then yes, your values are going to be taken care of, but you're going to be poor as a result. You're going to be in trouble. You're going to be destitute. You're going to be confused. And you're going to be like, well, I was right. I was right on these issues, but you were wrong about the things that mattered, that actually mattered. You were right. You took the moral position on some of these things, but you didn't take care of business. You really didn't take care of home. And what good is that? Right? I'm not a broke woke dude, or I'm not a broke woke dude, and neither am I a rich clown. Those are the kinds of things that we have to look at in terms of, are these my interests or are these my values? Am I fighting for my values or am I fighting for my interests? And the people that I'm disagreeing with, am I disagreeing with them through interest or am I disagreeing with them because of values? Because in all honesty, the reason why MAGA, the reason why conservatives, and the reason why Democrats have been able to be as successful in keeping us divided is because we're having arguments based on values, not interest. You will find out that if people align along their interests and not treat their values as if they're their interests, because you're seeing that the kind of compromises or decisions that people will make just to make sure that they have a roof over their head, just to make sure that their kids have food to eat, just to make sure that they're not walking, just to make sure that they're not poor, just to make sure that they're able to pay their bills each month. You're seeing the kind of compromises or decisions that people are making. And trust me, that you don't hold this high moral position just because you're poor or just because you suffered. Telling you, at least not in America. And we keep trying to play a morals game instead of a capitalist game. You don't win because you have morals or because of your values. You win because you advocate for your interests. And when your interests are taken care of, then you can have an argument about your values. But once again, we're divided via values. We're united because of our interests. But we make all these judgments about people because they have different values in us instead of aligning along our common interests. And MAGA, I don't care if you're MAGA or if you're a Democrat, you have a shared interest. In fact, if you're making less than $250,000 a year, you have common interests with 80%, 95%, 90% of all Americans. If you have over $30,000 in debt, and I don't care if it's in housing, if it's in credit card, or if it's in student loans, I don't care if it's in car loans, you have common interest with a bunch of Americans. And those are the things that we need to be rallying about. And I'm telling you right now that if you take care of the money, if you take care of the finances, it's a lot easier to take care of everything else. People say that money is the root of all evil. Is not true. It says for the love of money is the root of all evil. Get your money. Like, people say money can't buy happiness, but it definitely can buy freedom. People say money can't buy happiness, but it can sure rent the hell out of something. People say that money can't buy happiness, but it definitely can buy access, can buy freedom. It could buy ease. It could buy help. There's a Bible verse that says, money answereth all things. Money answereth all, not some. It answereth all things. Doesn't mean that it's the answer. That doesn't mean that it's the best answer, but money is an answer to all things. And so if you got problems, best believe that there's an amount of money that can take care of it. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. I definitely enjoyed talking about it. It's Dr. Jamar Montgomery here. Y'all take care.